Hello and welcome to the 12 Months to Marathon podcast with me, John Hill, the running podcast for the over 35s with Marathon Dreams. Episode 44. I have another very special guest on doing an interview with me today. I have Paul Lowry. How are you, Paul?
I'm good, thank you.
I'll give you the background on Paul and I'll let him do the rest of it. So basically, Paul has worked with me over the last 16 weeks or so on his spring marathon that was in Milton Keynes at the start of May. Paul came to me at the end of 2024 after running a previous marathon 7 years ago and was looking to right some wrongs and improve his time. So I'll let Paul talk a little bit more about his experiences in a second. So okay, Paul, what I want to know firstly was talk to me about your previous marathon experience first, and we'll go from there. So talk to me about your running background, stroke your previous marathon that you did.
Okay. Well, I probably started running in sort of 2000. I did a few people at work said, "Do you want to do the Great North Run?" And I said, "Yeah, okay." Never really done any running as such,
Hmm.
so turned up, did that pretty much untrained, uh, in top 2.5 hours, and from there I thought actually quite like this.
Hmm.
Went back, done it a couple of years later. Fast forward a couple of years, joined a running club. Got quite involved in that for 5 or so years, and then just moved house and never really didn't go back to the running club. So just run myself, and always had the dream of a marathon after seeing like London Marathon every year on the telly and stuff like that. And it just decided I want to do one by the time I'm 40.
Okay.
So in 2018, I decided to do the Milton Keynes one. I quite like the idea of finishing in a football stadium. Um, so went ahead and done that. Printed off a training schedule off the internet, just a generic one, and I thought, yeah, I can stick to this. I think there was maybe 120-mile run in there,
Yeah.
which I've done a few. Oh, so I've done a few halves up to there, so it was a little bit of the unknown. But I think there was an 18 and a 20, so they were the two longest runs, which I did okay. Obviously, turned up on the day. It was 26 degrees, something which I hadn't uh, trained in, wasn't used to it. Um, and then I just got to about 15 miles and just hit the wall. I suppose really,
Yeah. Yeah.
I was under. Looking back now, I could say I was under fueled. I didn't rest before the day before or days before, um, and then I finished in 5:03, which wasn't what I was expect. I was hoping for. I say expecting, hoping for 4:20 to 4:30, which I thought
Okay.
would have been reasonable. But once I went over 5 hours, it was probably something that what I didn't expect, and
Yeah.
therefore it was. Just I wasn't overly happy with it.
Okay. How old were you then, Paul, when you did that?
38.
38. Okay. Now, some of the listeners may remember that when he says 2018, that was also, as my memory serves me correctly, the London Marathon when it was really hot, when it was like 26, 27 as well. So I remember that, seeing a lot of people get leveled out by that heat. So what did you do? So after that, what happened then in terms of
Um,
after that? Yeah.
well, I did. I kept on. I did keep running, but it was very much. I'd lost a little bit of interest in it.
Okay.
And then up until probably last year, I was still running a couple of times, 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And then last year, I decided I was going to do a half and thought I'm going to see if I can beat my PB at half,
Yeah.
which which I did do in October. Um, and then after that, I thought, I might, now I'm in reasonable shape, might be the time to have a go at a marathon. But
Yeah.
I did always say I'd only do one. So after speaking to my wife and saying, if I take it seriously, I've got to put the effort in. What do you think? And she said, yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
That's what you want to do. So obviously, we had the conversation the
Yeah.
back end of 24,
Yeah.
and then we moved on from there.
What would you say, aside from the heat, and I've said this to a few people recently, I think the heat's something you can't, it's an uncontrollable,
Yeah,
as we talked about before. And I think it's one of those things that you can't account for. And there's only so much you can do in the pre race prep. different to prepare for heat on the day. There's a lot of stuff you can do on the day, hydrate more and, maybe slow down a bit. So aside from the heat, what would you say were the main learnings from the 2018 one that perhaps you didn't do as well as you could have done?
Well, looking back now, I'd say I never went into the race with an actual plan.
Okay.
Um, as much as I thought I'd trained, I hadn't.
Yeah.
Well, I had, but I wouldn't. Looking back now, I wouldn't call that training as such.
Yeah.
It was just trying to get through.
Yeah.
And then hydration, fueling.
Yeah.
I did. There was things that I didn't pay much attention to.
Yeah.
I thought I could just. I've seen other people do it, and I thought, well, I'd just get through it. But until you've been in that position at 15, 16 miles,
Yeah.
no one can really tell you, can they?
No. No, they can't. So what I want to do now is I do this in a strange way. So I want to focus on the marathon that you've just done first, and then we'll talk about the training that led you there. Because obviously,
Yeah,
we've gone from a 5:03 in 2018 at the age of 38. You did the Milton Keynes one again at 45. Am I right in saying that? 45,
yeah.
yeah. At the start of this month, as I record this, May 25. So talk me through that marathon.
The actual race, yeah,
Yes, please. Yeah.
yeah. So obviously, I w- I went in with it. Obviously, I planned that we'd discussed in on our calls and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
But I've written it all down, and this is where I want to be, and this is what I want to be at this stage.
Yeah.
And as much as I didn't want to keep looking at my watch, I was very aware that I have to be at certain points if I want to get
Yeah.
to a time that I thought was doable. So,
What was your goal time?
uh, my
No, not
ultimate
don't tell
goal,
me your actual time yet, but what was your goal time for
my
the?
well, you when we first spoke, you asked me to give me three times. The
Yes.
first one was beat my previous 5:03.
Yeah.
The second was 4:15 to 4:30,
Yeah.
and then the over the moon would be anything under
Under
hours.
4 hours. Yeah.
So the first the first 10K, I was looking just to stay as slow and comfortable as possible.
Yeah.
And I did something which I've never done before on a race. I didn't pay any attention to anyone else around me. I couldn't even tell you was around me. I was just as
Yeah.
head down, and so I was keeping an eye on my watch. And I did a couple of Ks a little bit faster than I wanted to, so I knew I could. I had a little bit of leeway, so I could on my watch. I had the average of what I was doing, so
Yeah.
it was about 5:28 going through the first 10, and I thought I'm
Kilometers for anybody who's listening
kilometers.
there.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just kept on. I just kept on going at that sort of rhythm
Yeah.
until I hit the halfway point. At the halfway point was where the race split, and the marathons went and finished, and then we went and done
Okay,
another
so it was
lap.
a split rate. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Which that's when my head started to play games with me a little bit.
Okay.
It's like you got to do this all over again, which was fine. And then I started to feel tired, but then I had you ringing me, your voice in my head going, "How much do you want this? If you want it that much, you'll work through it."
Yeah.
So after a kilometre or so, I'd got over that and got back into the rhythm. And then about 32, 32K, I tried to step it up a little bit, which
Mm.
which I did a bit, but not too much. And then with about 3 kilometres to go, I went a bit quicker. So I averaged 5:26, but the last couple were 5:15, 5:12, and 5:08.
Okay. So 5:26. That was in the last. That was the second half pace. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the overall pace, 5:26. In the end,
Yeah.
that's what it came out in the end. So
Was it?
I knew with about 5K to go that
Yeah.
as long as I don't stop, I will get under four
Yeah.
hours. So
That's about eight. For those of you in miles, that's about 8.5, 8:40s, I think, roughly, give or take.
yeah.
Give or
So
take.
then I just put my foot. And actually, everyone goes, oh, when you get past 20 miles, you're going to start feeling. You don't know where you're going to feel because you've not trained past that. But I actually felt. It sounds a bit strange, but I felt stronger towards the end.
Why was that?
I don't know
What can
if
you
it's
put?
because I was coming down. If I was coming to the end, but I just thought my body was conditioned and
Okay.
it was better condition than I thought maybe.
Okay.
Um, but and then when I got round the corner, I pressed stop on the watch, and it was 3:51:11,
Yeah. Brilliant.
which obviously I was very happy about.
Yeah. Of course. So that's a PB of how much?
Uh, 1 hour 12.
14 minutes. So no, nine. Yeah, 12, 1 hour 12, 1 hour 12
Yeah,
minutes. Wow. So you've gone from you've shaved 1 hour 12 minutes off at 45 of the time you did when you were 38.
yeah.
Brilliant. And how do you feel about that performance?
Oh, I was. It was more than I could have expected.
Yeah.
I, it's. I. I did think I could if everything aligned on the day. I thought 4 hours was in
Yeah. Like around not
touching
four at the
distance.
4 hour
Yeah,
mark. Yeah.
just about. Like I
Yeah.
thought I could maybe just get underneath.
Yeah.
Um, and without really pushing, I could have. Looking back now, I could have pushed a little bit earlier, but
Okay.
you never really know when you're gonna when the tank's gonna empty. But
Yeah.
I never felt like it was gonna empty.
Okay. Brilliant. What
Um,
would you put that down to?
um, Fueling,
Yeah.
I'd say, and obviously the rest building up to it, like the tapering,
Yep.
we went through it quite meticulously, and I was I did stick to it, and I think I changed one run for a walk in the last week,
Yeah.
which we spoke about, and you said that's fine. Um, but I think the fueling, and I didn't tell you, I didn't tell you, but on the day I trained everything to eat two bagels and a banana. When I
Okay.
woke up, I felt sick and I couldn't really eat, so I changed it to two pieces of toast, and then my mind was saying, "Oh, you're going to be underfueled. You're going to hit the wall," but I didn't. So,
No.
but
I mean, sometimes you see what some people eat, like elites eat before a marathon, and it's like, it ain't much.
yeah,
It's
but
quite, it's a funny one that, but again,
I had the gels. I think I had six gels, and I drank
like,
more water than I thought I was going to drink because I was just
in
topping
the
up
run
my own.
itself.
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
my own bottle and I just kept topping it up
Okay.
from the water stations. But yeah, the last gel was a little bit of a problem, a little bit come up. But
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that can happen. So brilliant. And going back over the training, then, what would you say were the main differences in the training? I mean, you mentioned a few bits and bobs already, but what would you say would be the main differences in training this time to the previous time?
um, there was a lot of variety in the training, which
Yeah.
we did. I mean, when you first gave me the plan, I was like everyone does. You look at the heavy weeks, and it was a bit like,
Yeah.
that looks a lot. I'm not
Yeah.
sure when I'm going to fill that in.
Yeah.
But you know, you move things around, or you get up early,
Yeah.
which I tended to do more than anything else. Took days holiday from work just to get the long runs in.
Yeah.
Um, but it was like the hill training and the speed work, stuff like that, and not just it was intervals, fartlek. We was doing different stuff, and it was a good it was a good mix of training to keep you interested rather than because when you're training 5 or 6 days a week, you you did say that you might get bored, not bored, but you might hate running at some
Yeah, it's
point.
a lot. Yeah, it is a lot. Yeah.
But I've never thought I hated it. There were times when I looked out and thought, you know, 5:30 in the morning, I don't fancy it, but you've got to do it.
Yeah.
Um, but I really enjoyed it. It was a it was like I said, all the stuff, the variety made the difference.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else, or was it just the
Uh,
variety? Yeah.
the other thing was like the easy runs. I didn't realise I'd be doing so many easy runs within the in the training. Like you
Yeah.
said, I think at the start I was going out. Well, before I was running at the same pace all the time.
Hmm.
Where you said, you know, on the easy runs, just run as easy as you want, pretty much.
Yeah.
You're just building up the memory in the legs.
Yeah. Cool. How's it changed you, Paul?
Um, I'd say it sounds strange, but the next day when I felt massive relief, not
Okay.
relief, but a massive pressure, which I've been holding since 2018.
All right.
It was something that I always wanted to run a marathon, but the disappointment of it, I wouldn't say I was embarrassed by my time. but it wasn't what I expected, and
Mm.
the marathon experience wasn't what I expected. But this time, it was, and I could pretty much tick it off now and say I've done it. I'll never say never, but if I never run a marathon again, I'm happy.
Okay. Okay. So I suppose, interestingly, timing wise, coming off the back of a lot of people are disappointed at the moment with their, particularly in the UK here, with their London and Manchester times because of the heat. Because again, as we said earlier, it's the uncontrollable of uncontrollables, especially when you're training for a spring marathon and most of your training is done in the cold. And then all
Yeah,
of a sudden, and I know that from my first one in 2014, did exactly the same thing. It was all cold, cold, cold. And then the sun came out in April in 2014. So I suppose my question is, what would you say to any, well, there's two sides to this question. What would you say to anybody who's perhaps like you, say mid 40s, who's got that kind of unfinished business thing going on? What would you say to them?
I think if you want something, like if you want something bad enough, you can make it happen.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, when we started, I thought 4 hours was a bit of a dream, and
Yeah.
you've got to set the bar high.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, if you're willing to put the effort in, then anything is possible. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm not really a runner or an athlete or just a, I've never really I've never was in running at school or anything like that. Played in goal in football, so I didn't really run that much. So it's just sticking to a plan, and that's what the accountability of having you and your team around.
Mm.
Just to it made a massive difference, and when you know other people are doing it, and you're out there, you say, well, if they're doing it, I've got to be doing it. So,
Yeah.
but I think, like I say, if you're willing to stick stick to a plan and do it properly, anything's possible.
Yeah. And how important would you say having a community around you was?
Now, it might sound extreme, but if I didn't have the accountability and I didn't have, there were times, as you know, early on,
Yeah.
we were back in the fourth week where I got injured. If I didn't have them people, I could have easily given up.
Yeah.
Not given up, but maybe I, at one point I did think, oh, this I'm not going to be able to run this marathon. Like, but everyone was so supportive in the group. Like we got about 6 or 7 of us all become like good friends, and we've
Yeah.
got an offshoot group now, and
Oh, yeah.
not just because it's interested in what everyone's doing,
Yeah.
but everyone was like encouragement all the time. And if you had a problem, like if you're running on your own, you got a problem, you can't talk to anyone if you're just on your own.
Yeah.
But you just go on the group and say, this has happened, or so we've got this is what you need to go and do,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
which is it's a big help.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. What would you say to anybody then who is maybe in their mid 30s, and maybe considering either starting a running journey or even considering a marathon? Is there any advice? Because you've obviously done both of yours after the age of 35, which is, of course, the tagline of this podcast. So, what would you say to anybody who's perhaps in that place, maybe a little bit hesitant, little bit, unsure? What would you say to them?
Yeah, if it's something you want to, if a marathon is what you want to do, or a half marathon is what you want to do, then you go for it.
Yeah.
As long as you've got the right plan in place.
Yep.
Um, because obviously, if you don't do it properly, as I found out, you can come unstuck.
Yeah.
But the differences are that this time I had structure, um, which was a massive help.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, if you're not sure, if you're undecided, then just go for it. Like, what's the, I think you said, what's the worst that's going to happen?
Hmm.
Like, as long as you put the training in, like, that got me through really. So I knew I'd done the work,
Yeah.
and running for 20 milers in training and a few other longer runs, I know I can do it. It's just it's you just got to have the belief, and that was something which you did have to sort of push me a little bit on,
Hmm.
um, which I needed help on. And I think that's the other big thing, which apart from the physical side was the mental side. How much stuff we did that on a Monday night, how much,
Yeah.
and it doesn't just help. I think it makes you look at yourself in everyday life as well.
Okay. Anything
Uh,
specific there that you've because I'm very obviously as you know I'm very big on the fact of how much training for a marathon, the mental side of it then translates into life. It's something that I've experienced. So, what would you say specifically there?
well, it's things like the way maybe you talk about yourself or you talk about other people, or you know, we we spoke about when someone says something to you and then you say but and then it's like, well, you're just saying I don't agree with what you're. So it's
Yeah,
little things like that which
yeah,
make you think about the way you speak to people, the way you act, and it's also the self belief in, if I can do this, what else can I do? And it doesn't just relate to running.
yeah,
Um, it could it could be anything. But the other thing is, it's obviously I've got two younger daughters, and I could say to them, if you put the hard work in, I did it. I think my youngest daughter said to me, "You beat your time by an hour, and you're 7 years older." I
yeah,
said, "Yeah, but this time you've seen me getting up early, you've seen me coming in sweaty and stuff like that.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
you know, I, if you put the effort in, you get what you want."
yeah, yeah. Is that a big component then of you with the kids and being the setting a good
Yeah.
example and that
Well,
sort?
I think it's important that they can see if I'm doing it, then it's a
Yeah.
good role model. Not that they're ever going to want run marathons, but
Who knows?
anything, dancing or whatever they do,
Yeah,
if you want to be the best you can, you you've got to train and work at it.
yeah, yeah. So what's next for you then, Paul?
Uh, I signed up for a 10K in
Hmm.
the start of July just to see if I can get a PB at that,
Yeah,
because I as much as I don't need to train for the distance, I could do some speed work,
yeah,
and I've got a few on the way for a few weeks here and there in the next month, so it gives me a chance to see, and I'll probably try and do a half marathon at some stage. Um, I've got one booked, but not till November, so I'll probably do one before then.
yeah,
Even if it's just around the local area, just to see if I can how fast I can do it.
yeah.
That's because obviously it sounds strange, but it's only half a marathon.
Well, it's compared to 26.1, 26.2, sorry, 13.1. He's literally half. So it is,
Yeah.
yeah, it is only half. Okay. Anything else from you, Paul?
Uh, not not really. I just obviously like to thank you for and all the team for all, all your help along the way,
Hmm.
because it's a big part of the training.
Yeah,
And obviously we spoke quite a lot, and there's always questions that come up, and you think, oh, it's a bit of a stupid question,
hmm.
and I'd come to you, and within probably 15 minutes you'd responded or called me or whatever,
Hmm.
and I had the answer. Go away and try that and come back and
Hmm.
let me know how you get on. Which
Yeah,
that's a big thing. You can't do that with a bit of paper.
yeah, that's right. I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Well, uh, thank you, Paul. That seems like a good place to stop. Well done. So, if anybody's listening to this, I think the big thing here, I think the big message to me, the takeaway is that if you are feeling a little bit deflated because you're perhaps unhappy with a marathon performance, you can go again. You can go back to the well, and even if it's a 7 year gap, you can still do that. It took me 6 years to hit my goal marathon time. Through labour of love and doing it. So there's always an opportunity to do it again. And I, very similar to Paul, I was 45 when I did my, target time. As you'll see from my Instagram profile, I won't discuss it because it's not really relevant in that sense, but it means you can always go back to the well and try again. And you can fix that unfinished business. So thank you, Paul, for that, for sharing that. I think it's valuable that, you've been able to sort of right some wrongs, as you put it, and give people the reassurance to know that even if it is a 7 year gap, that you can still go back and do better with the right learnings, and it's just a thing you can learn from. Yeah, thank you for that. I very much appreciate your time today. So as always, guys, don't forget to like and share this podcast. I really appreciate that. The star ratings on wherever you get your podcast from, particularly Spotify, really helps. So if you do like this podcast, please take the time to give me a star rating on Spotify. It really helps, and I do appreciate that. Don't forget to follow me over at 12 Months to Marathon as well to get all your free daily running content. And if you want to have a chat about anything, including improving your marathon time or fixing your unfinished business, you can always drop me a message and I'll happily have a chat with you. So thanks very much for listening again. And thanks to Paul again. And I will speak to you all very soon indeed.